So estimating means and confidence intervals for each of the pressure zones can be done with a low number of samples, probably 20 or 30 samples per pressure zone. What some of you are going to say, yeah, but you're not sampling my home. And what I'm saying to you is that if we sample 20 or 30 homes in a pressure zone, we will get an understanding about what the range of the average concentrations are in the homes, and you'll have a pretty good confidence that your home falls within the range of numbers that we generate for this estimate. So from a understanding of the pressure zone, from understanding of the concentrations in each person's home, here are the answers. We need 2 samples. We probably want to do it at between 20 and 30 homes. I'm probably going to suggest 3 samples. Again, stick with 20 to 30 homes. And then if we go on to the next question, which is what percentage of the homes are below 10 ppb with a confidence interval for the entire affected area, for all 21 pressure zones, not just for any one, but for all 21, we would then go on to question number 2, which is the percentage of homes below the screening levels, including the safety factor. And to do this, what we want to do, most of you, this will look somewhat puzzling to you all, but you all are familiar with this because you've seen polling for elections. And when they poll for elections, they say people yes and no, plus or minus some percent. Comes right off of this graph. I can give this to you. You guys can all be prophets in the future, just like they are on TV. Basically what this says is it says that if I take 20 samples and I find a number of 30%, I can say that it's 30% plus or minus 20%. Probabilities, you need large numbers of samples. When we get into the range of the 400 and 500, 600 that we would have in our sampling program, now all of a sudden if you got 30%, it would be 30% plus or minus 4%. So basically what this says is that if we do the sampling that I just described, we will have a good idea over the entire range of the area affected of what the percentage of homes that are above and below any particular percentage any particular value that we want to look at. Okay, so so the design that we're proposing, at least preliminarily, takes care of both of the questions. One of the things I want to point out that if we can't do that same estimate within each pressure zone, the reason being that with a sample size of only 30, you'd be looking at something like, this is an example here, this is not the actual number, but it's an example. If we went to only pressure zone 3, we would say 10% plus or minus 15% are above a concentration of 2 ppb. That wouldn't be very satisfying. You know, basically then you would know that it's somewhere between 0 and 25%, not very useful. But when we get up to 600 homes, now we'd be saying that 10% plus or minus 2% of the homes in the entire affected area above any particular level we want to look at. So this sampling plan will give us a lot of answers. Is it perfect? No, but perfect costs about $635 million, and we're not going to get that either. So another consideration, this is very important, I want everybody to understand this very clearly. The design is for single-family residential homes. That's what we sampled in the 10-home sample. We did not sample for multi-residence homes. We did not sample for businesses. If we wanted to do sampling in multi-residence homes, we would need to do a completely different sampling program. And to do that sampling program, we would need a separate pilot project. You can imagine that to give you the same numbers for those kinds of residences, I have to go into many apartment buildings and sample many apartments within each apartment building to come up with these same estimates. We didn't have the time or the resources to do that. If that's something that's desired, we need to go back. I think that if we do it in the single residential homes, we will have a pretty good understanding about what the concentrations are. Okay. Again, it's going to be very important. The reason we can't give you the final number is that difference. Right now, I'm doing all my calculations based on a difference between 10 and whatever number I'm going to measure. If the expert panel tells us the number needs to be lower, so that's going to be a very interesting finding for everybody, but it will also change our sampling design dramatically. It will end up costing more money and need more samples. So the summary of the preliminary sampling plan: 20 to 30 homes per pressure zone, 21 pressure zones. Take at least 2 samples per home. We will test only for MCHM. We did not find any PPH. TOC did not give us additional information. Unless somebody comes back and says to us there are other compounds you're not thinking about that need to be sampled for, we would sample only for MCHM. It will give us a good estimate of the home concentrations within each pressure zone, good estimate of the percent homes below any value down to the method reporting limit of the results that we have. And with that, I will say thank you very much. I hope that I don't see anybody sleeping. That's a good sign. And I am right on time. And the next speaker is Dr. Welton will come up and will tell you about the expert panel that will be coming in to do the evaluation of the health effects. And I am right on time. Dr. Welton.
Thank you. I am going to talk to you about the health effects expert panel that is being convened to examine the state of West Virginia's 10-part Pavilion screening level for MCHM and all additional toxicology data associated with the crude MCHM, compound called PPH and di-PPH. Why convene a health panel? Well, first let me mention that Toxicological Excellence and Risk Assessment, or TERRA, is an organization that we have contracted to conduct the expert panel. They have been thoroughly engaged in this. They've identified experts, they've vetted those experts, and what I'm going to talk to you about today demonstrates their contributions to this. The purpose of the expert panel is to basically go in and determine if the levels that have been established as safe for drinking water are in actuality safe. It's a central part of science. As a university professor, when I submit a paper that I think is good to a journal, that journal then sends that paper out to people all over the world who are blinded and they do not tell me who those individuals are, and then I receive feedback from them. And some of them may indicate that this paper is simply not ready to be published and shouldn't make any decisions based on it, and others may affirm that paper and say, yes, this is a good contribution to science. The expert panel will provide the same type of effort for the people of West Virginia here. TERRA is an internationally recognized independent and nonprofit organization. They're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Ms. Jacqueline Patterson is Vice President of TERRA. She will be here in the coming days. Dr. Michael Dowerson is the President of TERRA. He will be here in the coming days. Dr. Dowerson will be chairing the panel. And I will talk to you a little bit about who makes up the panel in a few minutes. TERRA has a long history of independent peer review. They have several key principles. They look for diversity of experience in their panels. They look for specific training of these experts that they call in. TERRA establishes panels to examine all facets of environmental science and engineering type issues, public health as well. They're transparent, and I will let me stress to you that the information that is determined by the expert panel will be publicized, will be put out there for the public. And next Tuesday, April 1st at 10 a.m., we will be in this room again here providing a preliminary assessment of what the panel has found. The peer review process works where we identify the scientific questions, and the people of West Virginia have already identified the scientific questions for this project. Is the water safe to drink, and at what level are acute or chronic health effects caused by the chemicals that were spilled into the water? Well, TERRA has gone about identifying experts and gone through what they call a conflict of interest investigation to determine if experts have prior knowledge of or work for organizations involved in this event. Once they narrow down the individuals that do have a conflict of interest, they then develop charge questions. And Jeff Rosen and I have worked with TERRA to help develop those charge questions to really get at the fundamental questions that the public is asking. And we developed, using the public's feedback, helped us develop the questions that we then were able to move forward with TERRA. The next step is to conduct a meeting. In the next couple of days, there will be a meeting here in West Virginia with these panelists. They will deliberate. They have already been provided a document, the health effects document, at wvtapprogram.com. They will analyze that document, bring their expertise, and also there's another document that has been posted. The Wvtap program has asked the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for additional information. The CDC then replied to us about 2 days ago, and now the expert panelists have that additional information. That document from the CDC is posted online as well. There will be a press conference on April 1st, and the final report will be released in the next month. The expert panel consists of a diverse number of disciplines. They're not all toxicologists. There are some individuals who understand water treatment and exposure health effects. I will introduce those individuals here in a second. Diversity of perspectives and experience. We do have some university representation, but we thought it was critically important to find a state health department representative, not from the state of West Virginia, but from another state, because in a situation like this, those individuals have a really fundamental understanding of the questions and the challenges caused to the state by an incident of this magnitude. These are the individuals on the expert panel. Dr. Michael Bowerson, he is president of TERRA. He's been president of TERRA since 1995. Dr. Ezra from the Israel National Water Company. Dr. Brumsbury from the National Center for Environmental Toxicology in the United Kingdom. Dr. Stephen Roberts from the University of Florida. And Dr. James Jacobus from the Minnesota Department of Health. These individuals will be the persons deliberating about the 10 part per billion screening level established by the state of West Virginia. They will also be, again, examining the ppH data, the dye ppH data, and other components of the crude NSHM. Question to be asked by the Wvtap expert panel. Again, they're going to review and discuss the available toxicology data. They're going to consider the safety factors applied by the state of West Virginia to determine if the levels that were established as screening levels are protective of public health, and identify data gaps and make recommendations. As I mentioned, they already have a literature review that Professor Craig Adams at Utah State University has authored. The panel members have this. The panel members also have a CDC response to a number of other questions associated with this incident. Both of these documents are available online. And these are the charge questions. These are the questions that the panel members are going to be asked. I would like to read these to you. The first question: given the data now available, what would be appropriate screening levels for MCHM and ppH in drinking water? Question 2: what additional data, analyses, or studies might reduce uncertainty and provide greater confidence? Question 3: how should the presence of multiple chemicals in the release to the Elk River be considered? Question 4: are the screening levels protective for all potential routes of exposure? For example, ingestion, dermal, and inhalation. Question 5: please identify any additional scientific issues or questions that the panel should discuss. Question 5 is truly a statement to the panel members when they are in deliberation. These are the 5 charge questions that the panel members will be challenged with. Thank you.
I'm supposed to regularly remind everybody, in the hall that our seminar series and the questions and answers that we pose later are all being streamed live, and that is being done for us by WCHS TV. Bob Aaron and his team here, we want to thank you for the service that you're doing to the public in broadcasting this. The proceedings are also being recorded. So that's, just be aware that that is the case. My job now is going to be